Okay, great. So I'm Chris MacDonnell, and this is Mickey Ryan.
Hello?
We've known each other for a long time, actually. How long have we known each other?
Oh gosh, I don't know if we should age
No,
ourselves
no,
there.
maybe not,
Many
but
years,
many
many years.
years.
Yes, yes.
uh, and So we've played together in many, actually in many ensembles,
Right.
and in shows and in concerts. And we actually have an ensemble together, don't we?
Yeah, we have a quartet, and we sometimes we do just duet concerts. We do for the community and like her videos that she has,
Yeah.
and so we are always looking for good music, and Better Together is one of our favorite pieces to do. I don't
Yeah.
even know where we got it. Was during the
It was
pandemic,
during the
right? Yeah.
pandemic, and I think Kristen had recorded something, and I was checking out her books,
Mm-hmm.
and I downloaded it, and was often recording the second part and playing the first part when I did these music for the soul recordings for the hospitals that our local 802 helped make possible. So I was using it then, and then I told her, hey, this is a really fun duet.
Yeah.
Let's play it together.
Mhm.
It's better than playing by yourself
Right.
with a recorded thing.
And yeah, we think that we're in the enthusiast committee, and our goal this year is to try something new. We're trying to encourage people to just get out there and try something new. So we thought like playing a duet with your friend or the person sitting next to you in band is a great way to like improve your playing, and it's also a lot of fun. So hopefully this will encourage you to grab your neighbor and try to play some duets together.
Definitely, it's definitely a lot of fun. You'll really enjoy it. And I think also Jessica put the website link, because you can download this music for free, which is so great that
Yeah.
Kristen Denny Chambers has allowed this. So if you'd like, you can download it now and you can follow along, or download it and then find a neighbor the next time you get together with somebody, or in community band or wherever you play, and play it. So the piece is also well, first let's talk about why we want to do a duet. Besides, having fun. I always tell my students when I introduce instruments in the elementary school, I always tell them, you play an instrument with your friends, for your friends. That's what it's all about, making music.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And while doing it, you improve your playing. So it's a bonus.
Absolutely.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I think like ensemble playing, like in duets, especially duets, you can really start developing your ears to listen to matching how the other person plays, articulations, how your tuning is. I mean, you can really start to develop those skills, which are really important when you play even with larger groups. So
Absolutely. I think the big theme today, besides just getting yourself out there and trying something new, is listening. It's
mm-hmm.
all about. I used to tell my students playing an wind instrument is all about air, but actually we're going to change it to it's all about listening today.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And just being aware of what the other person is doing. And we have Jamie here, and I would
Yeah.
love maybe he could talk something about this duet, because actually Kristen wrote it for them to play
Oh,
together.
cool. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, Kristen, the Clarinet Playground, has really helped me come back into my own again. I had taken quite a bit of time off and had come back. We started, from the beginning, pretty much learning to play again and everything. And Kristen's books really helped out. And that was the very first time that I got to play with anyone in about 25, 30 years. She had me, I was going up to Tulsa for my birthday, and she was there, and she's like, so I wrote this piece for you. Let's record it. Let's get on. Let's play it together. And of course, I said sure, and we started going along with it. At that point, I still didn't have it mastered completely. Kind of with the jazz stuff that's going on and everything there. So at this point now, I do have it under my fingers. But at then, I was still, learning quite a bit of things, and it was at a point where it was easy enough, for both of us to be able to read, so I could start listening to her again, so I knew how to ground my sound again, and how to listen for another performer to play together with again, and how to basically how to when you're recording, how to rehearse together. And pandemic wise, we weren't able to rehearse at all together until we actually got to be together then. And so it helped, being able to listen to the different parts and things like that. And once we got together, it was a lot easier. So it was nice. It was very nice of her to have written it for me, and it was nice to be able to play it that we did because I think we went live on Facebook to do it
Cool.
whenever we were doing it. We had done some Christmas carols also like that. She's really helped me push the envelope to get myself back out to playing again, and really owe everything to her besides my teacher, coming back playing wise, because she really did help me rise back up from the ashes and play again. I really owe a lot to her in these books. They're incredible.
Great. Great. Yes, their books are really incredible. I've been using a lot of them in my teaching, and they're just fun to read through, for sure.
Yes.
Wow.
And actually, Jamie mentioned that it's jazzy. And I think maybe, Jessica, maybe this would be a good time for us to play this video because everybody might be thinking, oh, is this a typical duet like Mozart or whatever? And it's not typical, and it is jazzy, which once you hear it and then look at the music, it's a lot of fun.
It's fun. It's so much fun.
Have it. So much fun.
I know. It's
so
great.
much fun.
It's great. And it's great that she has those backing tracks on her website too, so you can listen to those and play along. That's really helpful, I think, to get the rhythm, the swing rhythm. And also, I wanted to tell you, a lot of times backing tracks, they just come that way. There are a bunch of apps you can get now where you can put your backing tracks in and slow them down. Even if you have piano parts, it'll slow it down and not change the pitch, so you can practice at your own pace. And some of those, we have the amazing slowdowner. I think that was one of the first ones that I started using. And then there's AnyTune as well, which is and their apps, they have free versions you can get. I mean, you can also pay for them and they probably have more features, but the free versions are great too. So I'd recommend that if you ever have a backing track like that and you want to practice to get the feel, but you're not ready to play it quite up to tempo yet.
Absolutely. And we were going to talk about how one prepares something. So, for example, a lot of people love this piece, so they might be downloading it right now. And of course, you don't want to get together with a friend until you're ready to play.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, what would the first step be? Well, individual practice for sure, right?
Sure. Yeah. And I think also, like, we get together sometimes when we don't have the pieces up to tempo yet. But we want to hear how it fits together a little bit, before we actually perform it, and then we can go home and get it up to tempo if we need to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't ever feel pressured that you have to play something up to tempo. You can play something nice and say, okay, well, I've learned it at half the speed or 3/4 of the speed. And sometimes we'll say, can we go and let's go and practice it at 75, on the metronome or something.
Right. Yeah.
Just any piece, whether it's this or any other piece. So, which is good. So, effective use. Well, you talked about the backing tracks, but the big thing is metronome, right?
Yeah, metronome is your friend. Yes, as much as we sometimes don't like to use them, that it's really helpful because it keeps you from being your own worst enemy. You know,
Yeah.
when something gets hard, you want to slow down, and when it's easy, you're like, oh, let me speed through this.
I always say the metronome never follows me.
I know.
It doesn't follow me. I have to figure out how to make it follow me.
But yeah, we work with the metronome, and one of the things I actually watched, one of the other enthusiasts, Josh Gu, did an episode on how to practice, and I have to agree with him. Practice everything very, very slowly with the right notes and the right rhythm, because once you get a wrong note in your ear, you've got to unlearn it. And like I always tell my students, I'm like, look, if you can play it slow, you're going to be able to play it fast. Mm-hmm. But if you're trying to play it fast and you can't get it right, you're never going to play it correctly. So just, I always, everything now, I used to actually not always look at the rhythms. I used to just like finger through it. But after listening to him, I was like, he's right. You should do it just slowly in the correct rhythms. I find that helpful for me. What do you do? Like, when you first learn a piece?
Try not to freak out, depending on how hard it is.
Yeah, right.
Try not to freak out. If I have a concert coming up, what I'll do is I'll look at some of the parts that look very busy.
Yes,
very busy.
Black notes.
And
yes.
The black notes, and I'll look at those. I'll take them slow. The tonguing, I'll take it nice and slow, and then I'll start to maybe take the metronome and make it faster and faster. It's true that if you learn something slow, you can easily speed it up. And sometimes if it's a piece that I've had, I check out a recording on YouTube. Again, YouTube is also your best friend. I'll also listen to that so I could hear that as well.
It's true.
Especially if you're getting pieces together for a band concert or orchestra concert. Mm-hmm. So, and then I also do this with my students. I might not write on the music, but I'll have a little notepad, and I'll start with, I'll say, okay, I can play it at 76. Okay, then all of a sudden now I can do it at 82, 84. I actually make a little tab. And then when I'm kind of in the zone or kind of around there, then a lot of times I practice on the iPad. Then I might take the iPad pencil and start putting in the tempo markings. Yeah. Kind of like one of our quartet pieces. We started at a certain speed. And I kept getting it faster and faster.
Now
and
it's
faster.
like it's like lightning.
It's lightning.
We're like, how fast can we play it today? It's like 180 or something.
Something like that. There's this piece we play, and it's I think we originally played it at, I forget, 120 or something.
Right.
And now I push the envelope, but I only push it because we all know it very, very well.
Yes.
Very well. And I always start it. If we haven't played it for a while, I always go through it very, very slowly. Yeah. So that's it. The black notes and rhythm is very, very important too. Just to make sure you don't get into bad habits.
Yeah, no, it's true and I find especially, as you're developing your ear, if you hear something wrong with the wrong rhythm or the wrong notes, I think Itzhak Perlman said you have to play it 30 times right in order to get that out of your system. So, so that's the thing. So I don't have time to do something 30 times over.
No, definitely not. So it's like perfect practice, perfect practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is very, very important. So with a piece like this, now this piece, well, first I think with something that's jazzy, you should learn it with the jazzy feel first.
Yeah,
because I think a lot of my younger students, I'll say, okay, we're going to play this piece and it's jazzy, and they'll say, what does that mean? And so I'll try to tell them, well, maybe more like a triplet feel, and I'll hum it. And then they go and play it. They play it exactly straight. And I say, that's great. At least I was a good teacher. I taught them exact rhythm. Yes, that's the way your band director was. And then I have to tell them, well, that's one part of the world. Okay, that's one part of the world. And the other part of the music world, there are many parts, but another big part is the jazz world. And so a lot of times they don't know what that is. So I'll actually just go to the YouTube again, and I'll put on some Duke Ellington, or in this case, if it was clarinet, maybe the king of swing, Benny Goodman.
Right.
Benny Goodman, who was a great clarinetist who played classical music and premiered classical music, and he also was the king of swing. And then the list could go on and on and on. Of course, there was Artie Shaw as well, but I'm thinking of the late Ken Popowski, who was a great clarinetist who actually worked with Benny. And we had just seen him. I had seen him on and off in New York because he'd always be at my repairman in New York City. But we actually saw him at the Van Duren studio.
Oh, right. That's true. Yeah.
Just
recently.
Just recently, well, about a year ago or something before he passed away. But if you check out his recordings, that's swinging. So, and yet Ken Plopowski said he always practiced. He always warmed up on scales and even did a rose etude. You know, so you could have two worlds. It's kind of like you have to kind of just turn your head or like turn the dial. Okay, now we're going to the other side. So listening a lot so that your jazz doesn't sound too straight, but it doesn't sound too dotted like that.
Yeah,
you don't want that, right? Yeah, society.
We call that society. One thing you can do too, I know like Benny Goodman, a lot of his solos and stuff have been written out in books and stuff. What I do with my amazing slowdowner is I'll put those on and like just play along sometimes just to get the feel, because you'll find like I find the upbeats are a little stronger than your downbeats. So it helps you, you can play along with a master.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's one way of learning all types of different styles of music, which we often have to do.
Very much so. Yeah, absolutely, for any style. But I was thinking of my colleague. I went to undergrad school with Doreen Kitchens.
All right.
And everybody asked me, so was she a great jazz player in college at Loyola University? I was like, no, we were both classical clarinetists. Yeah. So okay, and now she's the queen, right? Queen of jazz down there. Because she lived down there, so she heard it, and you just hear it and you digest it. And if you want to try some of that, you listen to the old recordings, you go in and visit people, you sit in at bands, or whatever you want to do. Or if you're not comfortable doing that, obviously you go and listen at home, you do the slow down or whatever. And also the big thing with jazz is the emphasis is on 2 and 4.
Yeah.
So in band, you're thinking 1, 2, 3, 4. But and if you've noticed in jazz band, it's 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has that kind of different feel. So a good thing might be trying to put the metronome, and this was something that during the pandemic, which was a great time because I had lots of time to practice and also get free, just watch tons of free master classes. And not only being a clarinetist, but I'm an established woodwind doubler as well as Mickey here. And Jim Walker, the great Hollywood session flute player, did a free master class, and he was talking about getting some of the flutists to be able to play something jazzy. And what he did with his students is he had them play, it might have been a major scale or a minor scale or something, and he had them actually trying to put the metronome on 2 and 4 and beat it on 2 and 4. And it was really funny because he could do it, but so many flutists all of a sudden turned it around. Yeah. And all of a sudden got it back on 1 and 3. And he was just saying, because he's a session player back when there was a lot of recording, but he'd go into a session and they hired him because he had a great tone, he was a great flutist. But if there was something jazzy and he was off, that wouldn't work with the session, So I thought that was really, when I said, oh, that's really, really cool. So I think next time I practice, I'm going to do that with the metronome. Right. Yeah. So it's just something that just I remembered, he reminded us or actually told a lot of us. So that's something to do as well, is just kind of think about that jazzy feel. Actually, what I think I'm going to do is play maybe a tiny bit of the theme and play it straight and then play it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. I always say to my students, I'm going to pretend I'm one of my students. So I'm going to pretend I don't know a jazz feel. So for those of you who have the music, I'm going to take it to pick up to the 5th measure. So if I'm just looking at the notes. Actually, a lot of my students wouldn't even know what those carat accents are.
Right, I know.
So that's right. So they would say, I say that's a short accent. So in jazz, when you have, I call it the carat accent. Any professors of jazz out there, there's a fancy name for it.
Yeah.
But those are really short accents. And even so, that didn't sound like the recording, did it?
It kind of sounded Latin to me. It sounded like a Latin piece.
Because Latin is more straight.
Yeah,
Latin and rock and roll are more straight. So that was straight. So but that's not what Kristen wanted. That's not what Kristen wanted. So I'm actually I'm not even stressing every note. I'm not going.
Right.
That's for concert band. That's for your ensembles, orchestra. I always tell my students, don't swing in concert band. You'll give the band director a heart attack. So also there seems to be light
Yeah,
strong
stronger
and
and
light,
light,
strong
yeah.
and light.
Yeah,
That's,
absolutely.
that way it swings.
Mhm.
That's why when someone sings something to you, they're not going, it's got to be do 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 do. They're going boo ba doo da, boo ba doo da.
I always think
Boo
do da
ba
do
doo
da
ba
do
doo
da
ba
do.
doo. Right. That's
Yeah,
what your band director or jazz director or anybody. If you go to a concert, that's what they're thinking. So that's something there that you would have to go and, you know what, though, you could go and look at everything at first and play it straight just to make sure you have
the right notes.
The right
and
notes.
stuff, yeah, if
Absolutely.
that's what you're comfortable with. Yeah.
Absolutely. Then you can later listen to the recordings and say, okay, now I can kind of play the first page. I want to see how that swings.
Mhm.
And a lot of this stuff, some of this stuff is a little bit tricky. So I'm sure you saw there, Jamie, right?
Yeah, I know. There's like
Some of it's brilliant and it's a little bit tricky. She puts certain accents
Mhm.
in both parts. And the good thing is she has both parts on here. I'm always telling my students as a duet, it's great if you have both parts there because you can follow along. I tell everybody it's kind of like a puzzle. Everything has to line up.
Mhm.
And even though this is jazzy, everything still has to line up. Okay, you can't. And also, I might be getting, but we're talking about getting to learn the notes. So if we look at the second, I'm looking on my iPad, but this is the second page, and it looks like this is measure 29 into 30, the top line. I actually put, again, I always tell my students, the only person who's going to look at your music is you. Okay. I even have adult students who play in community band. I say, is this your copy? Let's put lots of markings, lots of markings so you can play. The only one who's going to look is you. And so I have here in 29. Now I did an F going to a G sharp. So, and I actually wrote, Mickey can look at my part, even though I said it's only for my eyes only. But what did I write over that F?
Left, right.
Left. That's right. I wrote the left pinky because if I'm recording it and or playing it during the pandemic, I recorded the second part, then played with myself, and I just didn't want to take a chance that I instinctually went to the right when I have to go to a G sharp next. And I actually wrote G sharp on the next one. So that must have taken me a little bit of time there. So so write in any markings you have to mark, left pinky right for there. Yep. If you're using the iPad, sometimes I actually even write the next note on the next page in case your pedal doesn't work. I performed this actually for Music for the Soul, which was a program for the hospital workers in New York during the pandemic as they were working overtime in such terrible conditions. And I had a piece of paper. I had the paper, and actually in my part on the second page where the second clarinet is playing a solo, I have moved to the left right. Because really you can, I mean, Mickey has her tape there, but a lot of times I like to see the two pages in front of me. So while I was listening to my recorded self, or you would be now listening to your colleague or friend play the second part, I'm moving my part to the left. So there I have all three pages. And it actually happened in one live stream, since it's live stream, that I forgot to, the pages were actually mixed up.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that was mixed up. So I was doing a little bit of improvisation while the recording of myself was going on, quickly moving pages.
Oh, no.
So it's a good thing when you perform to always have your pages in order.
Yeah, make sure everything is in shape. We should talk a little bit about the jazz articulation, I think, because it's a little different than than your standard. Like she demonstrated the rhythms, but also the articulations. When you have that line under the note, like they usually say do, right? That's your articulation. Then if you have the accent right after, you always have that do da.
That's right. In classical music, syncopation is always, bum 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 bum. I always say, I don't want to say my saying because I always say that's my secret for my students, but that's what you hum. So I have a great saying for that. But in jazz, the syncopation, the quarter note is short.
Yeah. Now that was the most serious accent. I think dit on those with the really short ones. I always think dit. I like dot for the staccato, But if you think about those kind of do da, that'll almost give you a swing, because that articulation is actually a tenuto with an accent after it, right? Do da do da do.
Yep, da. Exactly. And notice when we're saying it's just like I was saying, one note's going to be stronger than the other. And the syncopation that I was talking about, if everybody, those of you who have the music, just look at the the first measure of the first clarinet part, or the third measure where the second clarinet comes in. Second clarinet comes in kind of with the same thing. And on classical music, that would be right.
Yeah, yeah.
But in jazz, the syncopation, or I always tell the quarter note is short. I mean, not terribly short. It's not going to be.
Yeah,
that would not work. But it's got to have a little bit of a lift.
Yeah.
So that's important.
Yeah, those, and I actually usually get my students a sheet with the different jazz articulations just so they can look at it when they get their music for jazz band, because I find that helpful. It kind of keeps the swing of it going a little bit.
Absolutely. So you're not also dragging or rushing. And again, listening, just listening to that kind of, it's a different style of music. Just listening to it. It's not going to come too instinctual. People that just play jazz like it's like nothing.
Right.
They've heard it. They've been hearing it since they were 3 years old or something.
Right.
Yeah. So again, they've been doing the listening. So and dynamics. We can. There's plenty of dynamics in here. So I would say though, first work with a metronome, listen, put in, figure out your fingerings, then start to fool around with the jazz articulations. And jazz. I tell everybody the rules are. Or the rules that I said before are out the window. You can put in as many slurs as you want. Okay, because normally I'm always telling my students that's tongue slur to tongue to that's. But now in jazz it's a little bit more laid back. So I have to tell them it's jazz. You can be a little bit more laid back. Put in as many. If you want to put in an extra slur, you can. At the first measure, Kristen really has actually nothing. I put in some. I put in some. It's my interpretation. I put in some slurs. I put in some slurs there. Somebody else might want to go and. Oh, actually, I tongued it somewhere different. I mean, it's there. It's 3 different ways, and you can figure out which way you like. Okay.
And then whoever plays the second part, like you want to kind of agree. If she's going to change her articulations, when I come in, I want to try to change mine to match.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
and then it should be consistent. Once both of you, maybe she'll say, I like that, but how about this? And then once you decide on it, you can't be changing it every 5 minutes.
Right. Because then it's just going to sound unrehearsed, unprepared.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's see. What else can we talk about this? I'm thinking...
maybe the tuning. There's the one
tuning. Absolutely.
What is it? Measure 33 for 35. We're actually in octaves. Now, I actually had a sheet that I actually found on the clarinet.org website. It's by Dr. Gardner. Joshua Gardner. He did a clarinet fundamentals, and he actually has a sheet there that tells you how to adjust so that you're in tune. I know if you notice, like, if you play with someone and you're sitting next to them, you're playing the, on an octave, for instance, and you hear the wah, 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 and you're like, oh no, what do I do? Well, I think with the perfect octave, you want to kind of make the interval a little smaller so it won't have that wave in there. So like in this case, Chris might bring her notes down and I'll try to bring mine up a little. Like, let's just try to do that.
So where are you now?
35. We have the CC.
Right here?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's do that slowly, like just so.
So you want it? It's like
yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah. So that first measure is all in octaves.
Octaves. That's right. Then it's a little bit harmony. Then you're back into
Yeah. So for the if you look on that on the and look at his clarinet fundamentals, he actually has down there exactly how much you can practice with your metronome, how to bring down the notes. One thing that I do, because I know we work with a lot of people that are like, well, I play in tune. Okay, well, yes, that's the ideal. You want to play in tune and know your instrument and play the best that you can in tune. But once you get into an ensemble or a duet, you kind of have to compromise a bit. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And especially if you're on the top part, you might want to bring some of your notes down a little bit, because if you're in a third, you need to have, again, you should bring down your third and so forth, so that you do not have the waves that we don't like to hear.
Right. That's right.
Blah, blah, blah.
It's really hard for me to play in bands now, because I came from the President's Own. President's Own.
Yeah.
It was like everything was just pristine, articulations and tuning. So I got very, very spoiled.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you can find different, fingerings. I love the clarinet because if you need to bring down your pitch even a little bit, if you have ring, like for instance, your, let's say if you do an E, you can bring your fingers down and actually lower the pitch a lot. So if I'm in something like, let's say, play a C for me, just a C, and I'll try to do the third.
My middle C? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just tried to bring it down a little bit. And so sometimes I just do that by, covering the holes a little bit depending on the note that you have. So there are ways. And, especially throat register, if you need to bring those up, you can add your right side keys to get those to be a little higher. And it might be higher than 440. It might need to be a little bit higher or lower. Depending on what you're playing.
Yeah, tuning's all relative.
It's true. You gotta use your ears.
Use your ears, and then later, if you even know how to voice, but I know it's a little bit more complicated. But usually it's just voicing, like a singer. We're actually singers. Instead of using our voice, this is our voice.
Yeah, and you can practice that. Actually, I work with a colleague, and that's how he warms up. He puts on the tone, like if he wanted to do a C major scale on his metronome, you can do a tone generator of a C. And he plays the scale up and down and adjusts for all the intervals. So he can hear that in his head and get used to the voicing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So that's one way you can start to practice to get your, just starting to use your ears and knowing your instrument and how you need to adjust for certain notes.
Absolutely.
Hey, Mickey, just to jump in, I think maybe check to see if your original sound is on, because after a few seconds of playing, the sound dampens and we can't hear it. At least on my end, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's the Zoom. You're always supposed to.
Okay, I think I have it on.
Mine's
it could also be an audio setting that.
Yeah, I mean, let's see, settings. Mine automatically does original sound because I teach so much from the audio. I teach so much from the thing. Let me see.
It could also just be echo cancellation or any of those other settings in the microphone mode.
Zoom background
just double check
noise
that.
removal. Should I take that?
Take that off. Let me see what happens. It's not original sound, but
no, it's not doing it.
Huh. And if you could play that passage again with the octaves, just so that we could hear, I think that would be really great. Because I heard the first second or so, and then it kind of dissipated.
Yeah.
So we weren't able to hear it.
I returned off my phone. I was waiting to do my phone, but
maybe this is phone.
Because I don't know. Your iPad is a little bit newer than mine.
Yeah. Well, let's try.
I have a few students on. They know my iPad is always off. Original sound is off, but let's try that again. Did that work, Jessica?
Was that any better?
A little better, but I think maybe if you have noise removal off, audio isolation off, and you could also turn off echo cancellation and see if that helps. Sometimes it kind of gets in the way.
Doesn't seem to be letting me change that. Yeah, let me see.
Because I did want to actually then after we talk about this, take an excerpt from an orchestral suite and play it together. We might have to try to. I actually signed off from my phone. We might have to do that with my phone instead.
I think the tablet settings are often different than Mac or PC.
Oh, there it is.
Well, I don't even know how to do PC. I teach with my iPad all the time.
Sounds a bit different.
Yeah.
Your iPad's different from mine.
It says browser built-in noise. Okay. Let's try this now. Just see.
There you go. That's good.
That's good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, cool.
And we don't have to sign in with my phone.
Okay, cool. So do you want to do the Star Wars thing since we fixed it?
Why not?
Okay.
So playing the duet is fun, but actually you can use this skill anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whether you're getting together with your ensemble or the community band, or I took or an orchestra. I took a first page of the Star Wars suite, which is a piece I'm going to be preparing for the end of the month. And I copied it from Mickey, and I said, "Oh, let's see if we can play through this. So let's first play through it slow."
Okay.
Okay.
Just the other.
So it's supposed to be in cut time. We're going to do it slower in cut time. So 1 8 and go. We actually had a lot of unisons there.
Yeah, I know, especially in the
over there, and that those went well. But let's go and as I say, let's pretend we're our students, and let's play the first couple measures, and we're going to make it all wacky.
Okay. Yeah.
1 8 and go. I guess we can't. We try to make it sound bad, but our ears just.
I know you always want to adjust.
You always want to adjust. We're just so in tune till we have to adjust. Okay, now we went through it. Let's go and make it faster. Now, you would do it in graduations, right?
Right.
Gradually.
Yeah.
But we're going to just jump to so.
And also, like with this, I think part of the secret of the tuning is making sure your tone is centered.
Yes, absolutely.
Like we have this actually similar. We have the same clarinet, same clarinet, and similar
Yamaha custom clarinets,
and similar setups. So, but you know, because she has a really centered tone, when I'm playing second, I can kind of latch on to that pitch. You know, sometimes if you're playing too spread, I guess
yeah.
is it? Yeah.
You might think it's pretty, but it's really hard for people to play in tune with you. In fact, when I was in college, I would be, we'd be playing all kinds of ensembles for little opera companies or whatever. And I remember the oboist always coming with oboe, of course, which is a very direct
very
tone,
centered,
very center tone. It's funny because now I do play oboe, but at that time I was just clarinetist, and the oboist would always look over at me and say, "Oh, I just love playing with you." And back then you're kind of still like, "Well, really? I don't know. I don't have a good reed." You know, you're a little. And she would say, "No, because I can. You have your center. Your tone is so centered. I can find exactly where you are." And vice versa. I could find exactly where she was.
Right. Yeah.
So I think a lot of times people get in their head that everything is covered and spread. It's very pretty. Maybe if you're playing by yourself, but it's going to be a disaster playing with other people.
Yeah. You have to have that fast air and just centered tone.
Centered tone. So that's why. Yeah. So we have. So let's go now. Do it a tempo.
Okay.
Okay. 1, 2, 1. There you go. So, and I picked that section because if you didn't know what we were playing, you probably guessed it at the end.
Every pops concert you've ever played, you'll be playing this.
We're playing that. Yep, John Williams. Can't get much better than that. Yeah. And Jamie, did you say that you studied with Kristen? Did you study?
I did not.
Uh-huh.
I studied with Sam Boutrous and David Pino when I was in college. But no, but I might as well have studied with Kristen because I got to read all of her books while she was, during the editing process and everything. So while I was still picking up my fundamentals again, that was a great way to pick up my fundamentals again. And it was fun because it was something that I hadn't done before. It wasn't the close, it wasn't the rose, it wasn't the vademecum, it wasn't, it was something that was completely new. And it's a couple of times I would I would post and Kristen would message me. She's like, "Hey," so that was really nice. Everything was really even, but that was about twice as fast as it was supposed to go. So, and at that point I'd be like, "Oh," she's like, "But it sounded good." So, we'd have to go back and try back again. So every one of her books, from the very first ones to where we are now, was just a direct progress of how I grew along with it. Of course, I had from before. It was accomplished back in the day, but it had you bring it all back. When you don't play for 30 years and you start again, you have to start all over again. And so um, I knew enough to where she was able to speak my language and what she was doing. There was enough of the DNA that was in there of the rows of the other things that I was able to put together. And yeah, it just really helped put me in the right direction. So I might as well have studied with her the whole time.
Right.
It was all her books, everything that brought my fingers back to life, brought me back up to speed, got my hearing back into place. And I'm deaf in one ear. Was from those books because that's all I was reading at the time, kind of a thing. Because I was helping, get her to read. So it really did. I can honestly say it really does help, and it speaks a language that the kids are learning in these days, kind of a thing. I remember trying to go through that Jean book and
Yeah.
just try to make it make sense. And it just, it's beautiful stuff and I love playing it, but this was easier communication wise with me and her and the younger students as well as they're picking it up. It's speaking their language a little bit more. It kind of catches their ear a little bit better.
Mhm.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
more accessible. It makes it more fun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Cool.
Makes it fresh.
Did you go to college together, or how did you meet Kristen? I'm just curious.
Oh no.
No.
I met Kristen through the Facebook clarinet enthusiast group where they were posting, the etudes of the week group is when we first
Oh.
all started at the beginning, and we were all posting then. And definitely, I mean, I go back and I cringe at some videos, but we were learning, again, and
Yeah.
in the pandemic, and we weren't getting haircuts, and so everything kind of was
Right.
was sloppy, but we were learning along the way, kind of a thing. And I go back and I listen, and I was like, oh my God, I actually posted that, and people said positive things to me. Thank you for putting up with me to go back up to where I needed to be again. And I credit all of these books to her because of that, because I didn't just read them because I wanted to. I was helping her so that it, as an editing portion of it, and then at the same time, it was getting my fingers back to where they needed to go again. So when I needed to plug into those Johns again, to the Roses again, to all the competition pieces again, my teacher was able to say, hey, okay, good. This is what we're doing. And Sam actually asked me for Kristen's books. So that, and so, I was like, okay, sure. So there's something that was working there and he noticed as well. So he just kind of helped coach me over the edge. But I'm sure that I think it would have been really odd had I been taking lessons with Kristen because we're such good friends, kind of a thing. But that's how we met. My husband, he works at a hospital in Tulsa. And so I would go up and visit him on the weekends, and that was when we first got to get together and actually start playing together and everything. So yeah, definitely she wasn't my teacher, but she might as well have been. So she's an even dearer friend. And of course, you learn from the people that you're around with, and even if they're your friend or not, I've learned so much from her. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's nice to encourage everybody. And it's true, you'll learn, you'll hear something from someone, or you'll have a conversation, or someone will talk about what they just heard on a podcast or in their last lesson. And so it's really nice to communicate with everybody and just have it's a judge-free zone.
Yes.
It's all about playing music and just growing together.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always tell my students, don't be afraid to ask the person you think who's better than you, because what better way to learn? If there's a really great player, you're like, oh, let me, can we play duets? That's how I got into doubling.
Yes.
I just, because no one knew you, and at that point you could call up someone and say, hey, I'm new, can I come play duets with you? And you'd play duets with them, and then they could assess how you were and give you tips and stuff. So
absolutely.
so much fun. So I guess, do you think anyone has questions?
Yeah, I'm wondering whether anybody has questions.
Yeah. Let's see, is there anything in the chat? Okay.
Feel free to type any questions you might have about the piece, about the collaboration between Jamie and Kristen, or how, Mickey and Chris regularly work on stuff together. I want to start us off with a question. I wanted to ask, within the duet, specifically in Better Together, what passages did you two identify as problem areas or places that might give you some trip up, both on an individual playing level, but also in the actual process of playing the piece together. So duet sections that are challenging. I know you spoke about the octave section, but other areas technique-wise that people who are looking at this piece for the first time might want to consider spending some slow metronome time with.
Oh, I think I played the on the YouTube. I played the top part, but of course I played both parts when I was live streaming. That area where I was talking about, where I put the left pinky and actually wrote in the next measure, it's a G sharp, and I actually wrote G sharp. Somehow my brain wasn't quite computing it, and so I think on page 2, actually the second part too. I'm thinking of the last two systems. That I would say for professional or enthusiast, that could be tricky to look it over. And I even the second clarinet, down at the bottom, getting those octaves. That is tricky.
And I find like matching the triplets there in measure 34, and you have that da 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 da, because we should sound like one clarinet playing it. And so I, listening to the upper part and try to match that. Also the solo, I found, the little solo there, keeping the tempo going, not slowing down. And then also honoring what she played, because I come second, so I don't want it to be completely,
Also catching that, again, let's just look on page 2. Page 2, the first clarinet has a solo, and then the second clarinet has a solo, and the first clarinet has to come in at the third system. Bum, bum, bum. That has to be together.
Yeah.
That has to be together. So I'm counting, but I'm also paying attention to her solo. And that's something in a lot of ensembles, the eighth notes. The eighth notes have to, when you're coming in, has to sound like one person. I think that would be a good thing to practice with the metronome. Then when you get together with your friend, go slow at first. And just really make sure it all, gels. So as I tell my students, it's like a puzzle. Everything has to line up.
And I think the last 3 bars are tricky.
Last 3 bars.
Yeah, just like da 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 da, because I have the eighth notes coming down, and then
you have the eighth notes coming down, and I have to catch her right away to come in for the ending.
Yeah.
In terms of notes, also for enthusiasts, that third page, measure 42, the second measure, you have a lot. You have a C sharp, and then you have a bunch of flats, and then naturals. So that might take a little looking at, because it's a lot of things to look at. So,
and and on the second part, in that second to last measure, you definitely have to use your chromatic B natural fingering there, because to get that smooth.
Oh, the last 2 measures.
Yeah,
that's right. So thinking, if you're not used to your chromatic fingering, kind of putting whatever, an X or whatever,
right?
Or whatever, CHR, whatever your reminder is for that. Then putting in the dynamics after you are comfortable and you got it at a pretty good tempo, and you're liking the way it's swinging. It's kind of like putting the dynamics in. It's kind of like we have the cake, we're starting to put on the icing, and we want to put some, or we want to put some sprinkles on and little decorations, putting on the decorations. That's kind of my analogy, or I use the ice cream cone. Okay, we got the chocolate or vanilla ice cream cone here, and we got to go and put on the sprinkles and the chocolate syrup, to make it really taste good, or just make it really sound good. It's all about the dynamics, which makes it very interesting. So I actually, if you want, you could take a highlighter and just highlight all the dynamics. I have a student who actually likes to make the fortes red and the piano's yellow. You can actually even color code. You can actually have a lot of fun with your part if you wanted to do that.
And I just since I was playing second on this, I find sometimes when you're in the low register on the clarinet, to balance it out, sometimes, even though like it says here mezzo forte, I probably played a little closer to forte in those low notes, just to make sure that they weren't lost in the mix. Because sometimes when the other part is in the high register and you're in the low, those low notes get muddy and get lost. So I I usually bring up my volume a little bit when I have low E's and F's. So.
Absolutely, because the lower notes are acoustically
Acoustically
softer.
softer,
They're
yeah.
acoustically softer.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you. So I do have a question from Adam. A lot of what we've discussed to this point has been specific to the piece, but they wanted to know, what do you suggest for general duet practicing, rehearsing with your partner, and performing? Things that you could be aware of, or specific things that you all do to help each other as you work on new music, or things that you do for preparation. And I did want to address one thing. There was a question about the percussion backing track. If you go to Kristen's website, which I posted the link in the chat, and you purchase, even though it's free, it will email you both the backing track and the score there. So you should be able to access those files from the email. But I will let you answer the previous question.
Great. Okay, so well, actually, we premiered a piece. We premiered a duet piece in Dublin for the Clarinet
that's right.
Fest.
Yeah, that was like
Right.
B flat and E
B
flat.
flat, B
Yeah.
flat and E flat. I was playing the E flat, and she was playing the
B flat.
the B
yeah.
flat. So basically, I sent her the score. We both looked at our parts. I played both parts to see if there were any mistakes, because sometimes there can be mistakes in the first draft.
Yeah.
I think I caught one. You might have caught another.
Yeah, there were
And
a few.
yeah, and then well, this was the composer. The composer sent us a MIDI, but like if he didn't send us something, we would start. I would start very slow. I would very slow, and then think of a goal. I would say, I think actually this piece is going to sound really great at like 138. Okay, and then she'll say, well, okay, and but I'm going to rehearse. I'm going to practice my part. Slow, and then I might actually say to her, I've just been playing both parts and trying to figure out, or I'm looking at my theory and seeing, but we need to get together to make sure there's no big mistakes, or we have to talk to the composer, if it's a new piece. So we'll get together and we'll say, I'm not ready for 138, but can we get together at maybe like around 100? Do you think you'd be ready for 100? And that's how we do it. And we'll also do it in small sections.
Yeah.
We're not going to run from the beginning to the end and have disaster. We'll actually do small sections. Let's do this section first. How did that feel? But that actually felt pretty good. But can we do this again? I think this wasn't really gelling. And that's how you kind of work it. And listening for making sure the puzzle lines up, everything lines up, the rhythm and everything. And then any tuning. And then we would add. Then, little by little, I always say little by little, then we would add the next part. I forgot to mention my big practice thing. I even have a sign in my studio, is if there's a part that really troubles you, is instead of practicing from the very beginning or that whole line again, is just isolating the problem and looping. I actually have a big sign in my studio, isolate the problem and loop. And first, my students didn't know what loop meant. So I had to tell them, because they forgot. They didn't know about the tape.
Right.
But it means repeat many times. And I usually say to my students, let's see if we can do it 5 times in a row. And sometimes you'll go in and loop it, and it'll be in your fingers. And the next day you come back,
it doesn't work at all.
Whoa, what happened to all that practice? So it is a process. And then you just isolate it again. And you might say that this part is at 88. And again, remember I had the notepad, you just make, okay, I'm at 88 now. My goal is 138, but I need to maybe get it up to 100, because I can read with Mickey. And if I can't, I'll tell her, let's just go through this at 76.
Right, because sometimes also you have to adjust your tempos based on how it's lying on the other part. Like sometimes, the person will be going, 16th notes over the break over and over, and you can't do that. Maybe that it's going to sound really bad if it's fast. So you can adjust your tempo based on the part, especially with newly written pieces, because sometimes composers write stuff and you're like, what is I don't have an E flat on the clarinet, so you have to do all that kind of work before you actually get to work. But the good news is once you get some of these techniques down, it gets easier and easier to learn new music, because you might have a problem going from let's say B flat to C over the break, and if you practice that in the loops, like she said, sometimes I just play like one measure. I do one measure, and just practice it. The next time it comes up in your music, you've got that skill. You have this muscle memory still, so you're each time you think like, oh gosh, it's taken me forever to learn something, I'm like, this is so slow, you're going to those skills are going to stay with you. And then the next time you see that in your music or band music, you're like, oh, I have this. Yeah, I can practice something else now. So we often we'll get together and just practice the really hard sections. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll be like, or listen to this recording of it. One thing I find with all of my students too is practicing over the bar lines. Like if you're having trouble getting or the end of the line to the next staff, if you're having trouble going from the last measure of one to the next, I have them practice that combination a lot, because a lot of that, sometimes that's just your eyes not moving fast enough, and so you train your eyes to okay, I'm on this note, I can look down here now, and that can help you learn your pieces a lot easier.
Absolutely. Too. Or just write that name of that note at the end of your line. Remember, the only person looking at your part is going to be you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but yes, and that's a very good thing. Also, sometimes learning a piece backwards.
Yep. Yeah. Start at the end.
Start at the end, because you're always tired at the end, and that's when you're going to most likely make mistakes. And then you're practicing your mistakes. I actually say to my students that your mistakes were great today. Now we have to unlearn our mistakes.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So today I'm just going to learn the last 3 lines or whatever, the last page. I'm going to work on the last page this week or so. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes I have students and they have a really hard piece and it's 8 measures. And I'm like, all you have to learn this week is those 8 measures. Practice them until you can get them up to tempo. And you have those 8 measures. And then we'll look at the piece and it's oh, wait, those came back 2 other times in his solo, because there's often, so they've learned 3 lines, but don't be overwhelmed. And I think a lot of people, I often start at the last page because I like to start at the beginning. You know what I mean? Everyone does. You open your music and you're I'm going to start at the top of this etude. And then by the end, you're tired and you're and then you find oh, I can play the top really well, but wait, what happened to the end? So those are good tips. But I love those Rubank yellow book, duets, selected duets. I mean, they have some really good ones there to learn your different keys. I think they go up to 4 flats, 4 sharps, so you can learn your way around, the pinky keys and stuff. And sometimes they'll have a really easy second part, so you can play it with somebody. So those are pretty reasonable to buy now. So,
and if you're with a friend, and you can also play a duet once you learn it, or you're just getting together and play a duet and say on the repeat, let's switch parts.
Right. Yeah, we do that a lot. Yeah. So I think you can take the skills that we use for Better Together for any kind of music that you're learning. And the benefit of doing the duet is you're using more, you're developing more of your listening skills for playing. It's funny, I did the Sarasota Music Festival a couple of years and got to study chamber music with all these fabulous players. And I remember one of them, he's a famous oboist, and he'd be like, don't bother tuning. He's like, just don't bother tuning. And of course, we're all in college going, is he crazy? What's he talking about? And he's like, everyone's just going to play where they feel comfortable. And he goes, your job is to sound good together, not sit there and say, I'm in tune and you're out of tune, So, and it was amazing. It actually, once you got out of that worrying about playing every note in tune and you started using your ears, it was it really got more cohesive. So
definitely. Usually when you see someone with the tuner on the stand, they're the ones who are always playing out of tune. They might be perfect with the tuner, but they're not in tune with anybody else.
Right. I mean, sometimes for instance, we're playing a show now and we found out the keyboard that is in the show is not pitched at 440, it's at 441. So of course, if you're tuning with your tuner to you're flat. I have a student actually doing a Juilliard pre-college and audition, and all their pianos are tuned at 442. So, which a lot of orchestras now are playing at 442. So you've got to be flexible and be able to do that and listen and stuff.
Have a couple of different barrels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Or a lot of people have those adjustable ones.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, we are out of time, and I just want to thank both of you and Jamie for joining us.
Yes.
Again, if you're not familiar with Kristen's work, please do yourself a favor and visit her website, Clarinet Playground. She has incredible etude books, and they are really approachable. And I think anybody at any level can benefit from using those books. And again, the Duet is free. If you haven't downloaded it, please use the link in the chat to go and get a copy of that score and find a friend. And if you have, I won't say have no friends, but if you need a friend to work with, please send me an email and I will try to help you get connected with someone looking. So my email is edo@clarinet.org. We see if we can connect you. I do think that it is probably best done as a multi-track, so one person record and the other person play over the top, because internet sort of gets in the way of these kinds of things. But if you're local to that other person, maybe you could get together and do what Chris and Mickey have done here, working on these items. I do want to put in a special plug for our upcoming workshop this Saturday. It's 11:30 a.m. To 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It is our Clarinet Enthusiast Workshop, and this workshop is called Choose Your Own Adventure. We're going to be doing some breakout rooms where we look at two different pieces. One is the Saint-Saëns Sonata, and the other is the Finzi 5 Bagatelles, and we're going to do breakout rooms and spend some quality time together learning these pieces, as well as doing a movement session and also a Q&A with our enthusiast committee. It's always a really fun workshop, and I think it'll be really great for you if you're looking for a new piece, or if you're looking to revisit these pieces and you've played them in the past. I think everybody can enjoy this workshop. So please consider joining. The link is in the chat, more information on the website. And that's it for now. If you joined a little bit late, I'll get this posted on our YouTube channel a little bit later with the links included in the description. But thanks again to Chris and Mickey and Jamie and Kristen for sharing this wonderful piece with us. And we will see you this weekend, hopefully. Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.